Hello and welcome to our residential life session. We're really excited to have you all join us. Our hope is that you all join us in the fall and make for an exciting time for our residential life friends as we try to accommodate and fulfill all of your residential life needs. And now I will pass it over to Julianne and Michael to take over the rest of the session. So thank you all for joining us and enjoy the session.
Sorry about that. So I'm Julianne Schnibbe. I am the Director for Student Housing Administration, and I'll let Michael introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Michael Pettinato. I'm the Associate Director for Undergraduate Housing here.
Yeah, so we're going to go over some information, and while I'm going over stuff, if you have questions, feel free to ask them. Michael will be answering some stuff in the chat, but I will have time at the end for questions as well. And so a lot of your questions will hopefully get answered along the way. So if you want to hold tight, that's also fine. Um, so um, First year students, there's a 2-year housing requirement, unless if you're from the Rochester area and you'll be commuting from home with your parents or legal guardians. Aside from that, you're required to live on campus for 2 years. For first years, we will have them next year living in Gilbert Hall, Tiernan Hall, Lovejoy, that's in the first year quad, and Susan B. Anthony Hall and Genesee Hall, which we call the first year Hill. If you're familiar with the institution, we do have Hoeing Hall offline next year. It's getting some renovations, which that will be exciting. So Hoeing is in the first year quad, so it won't be used next year, but for future years. So about 80% of our students, first year through senior year, live on campus. We have 10 different dining options on campus, a convenience store, which that's in Susan B. Anthony Hall on the first floor, dining center, 2 dining centers, Douglas and Danforth. Danforth is also in Susan B. Anthony Hall. Every building has a laundry room. We have a lot of leadership opportunities. So if you're looking to get involved, this is a great place. A lot of different things that you can do. For housing, and I'll talk a bit more about this in detail in a bit, but we have what we call 2 different affinity housing areas. And for when you're in upper class housing, so sophomore and on, we have 4 special interest housing areas and 1 living learning community. So there's opportunities for different types of community beyond your first year as well. So something that we started this year, we were working on it last year. This is the first year of implementation. We have what we call the FIRE program. So this is all first year housing as part of the FIRE program. It's the first year residential experience. And a great way to look at this is to help like your holistic development and your transition into college, because you'll learn a lot in your academic classes, but there's a lot that you learn like in the residence halls. And so a lot of this stuff we were doing before, but we formalized it, and we created more opportunities to try to help students with their transitioning. And I would say this year it's going well so far. So we're very excited to continue to grow this and continue to develop it for future years. If you end up doing any of the admitted student days on campus, we have a table where you'll meet some of our team and you'll learn a bit more about it. So we have a lot of different programs that happen as part of this program, like different events. So we've linked a lot with the Career Center and the Learning Center. We bring them right into the residence hall. That's something that's different than in the past. A lot more civic engagement and a lot of focus on leadership and leadership roles. And so part of our FIRE team is the area coordinators. So this is a full-time professional that lives in the residence hall. They oversee all of the functions, all of the staff supervision of everybody that's on here, except for the eco reps, and all of the day-to-day operations. So if there's ever a concern that you have, this is someone that you would be able to go to. They supervise a graduate resident director. So the GRD is what we call them for short. They are a grad student from our university, and they directly supervise the RI staff. And so that's another paraprofessional that you would end up meeting, like when you're here, a great resource to help you with anything that you need. The resident advisors, honestly, these are the people that you're going to get to know the most. RAs are student leaders that live in the hall. And so they're upperclassmen, sophomore, junior, senior. They're trained in various skills. So they'll put on events to help community build. They do some light counseling, like roommate conflicts, helping set you up with resources if there's something that you need. They do a lot of referrals. So if you need assistance, like finding something or figuring out who do I need to talk to, they're a great resource for that. And so they also enforce the university policies, and they respond to emergencies too. So if something's going wrong or you need someone to talk to, this is a great person to go to. So DeLions, this is short for Dandelion. They are student leaders. It's a volunteer position. They live in the hall as well, along with the first year fellows. So these, again, are sophomores, juniors, or seniors, and they promote school spirit. And so they are another driving force to help build community in the hall and to help you transition. They encourage a lot of student interaction and getting you involved in the community. And so the first year fellows, similar to RAs and DeLions, they're another upper class student leader that lives in the hall. And their focus is really to help you with your academic and social and co-curricular opportunities that are on campus and help like transition. So, and then the eco reps, this is an opportunity for you all. We have these in first year areas, but we also have them in our upper class housing as well. But an eco rep, this is your opportunity that if you want to take leadership and if you are into like environmental friendly like behavior, there's a class that you can take and hold this leadership role where in the hall you can help like with our green initiatives. And so that has been popular with students in the past as well. And so keep an eye out for that if you choose to come here, we'll have information on our website, but there's also information on the Eco Rep website. And we'll have some stuff in our application links, our housing application links to send you to theirs if this is something that you're interested in. So room types that you're able to live in. Double rooms, this is our standard room. Most of our students live in double rooms. We have a limited number of single rooms in our first year buildings. So on your housing application, you're going to be able to indicate if you're interested in living in a single room or a triple room if available. And I'll talk about triples in a moment. So indicating that it's not guaranteed, it's just saying a preference of, hey, if the opportunity arises, this is something that I would be interested in. For full transparency, I assign medical accommodations to singles first. So this would be what is left over after all of our required medical accommodations are done. So if you're interested, definitely indicate it. It can't hurt. After you receive your room assignment in July, there's an opportunity to fill out a room change request form. Typically, we do that after classes have started. But by all means, you'll have the ability of, if that's something you're interested in, if and when something becomes available, like throughout the fall semester or the spring. So triple rooms, these occur when we're over occupancy, and they are in our larger rooms that we've designated. These are triples. So if a triple were to happen, it would be in Genesee, Gilbert, and Tiernan. If I'm not sure yet if we're going to have triples in this upcoming year, if we do, and if we're able to allow you to preference, that will be on our application. And so if we do have them, it does come with a 20% housing discount. But if you are in a triple, it's just because you're sharing like space with like two people instead of one. But you would have your own bed, your own desk, your own dresser, every piece of furniture that everybody else gets, you also get. And so keep an eye on the application. If we'll have triples available, it'll be on there. If not, it's doubles and singles. It's going to depend on our enrollment numbers. So for our living styles, we have two types of floors. There's all gender rooms. So these are rooms that are for all genders on the same corridor, and they have separated gendered bathrooms. So some of these floors will have an all gender bathroom. And so an all gender bathroom, what this means is picture a bathroom. It has separate toilet stalls and separate shower stalls. So for an all gender restroom, anybody would be able to go into it. If it's a gendered restroom, then it would be male or female. And for the all gender floor, our default would be sticking to the gender binary. So a male room, a female room. But if students want to have, you could choose whoever you want to live with. So there might be rooms on an all gender floor where people have specifically preferenced who they want to live with, where it might not follow that gender binary. But our default would be male and female. So a single gender floor would mean everyone on the floor either identifies as male or everyone on the floor either identifies as female. And so you'll have the ability to preference between these two and whichever you prefer. And all gender, we've replaced the word co-ed with that. So if you're more familiar with that term. So for affinity floors, we have two, and I will tell you it's a little bit confusing. So we'll go with quiet study first. Everybody at the University of Rochester likes to study. You're all very intelligent, and studying is a given. But for our quiet study floors, we only have a few of these. These are for the folks that maybe they want to be able to study in their room. A lot of students choose to study in the library as a social hub. But so for a quiet study floor, this just means we expect the floor to be a little bit more quiet, like 24-hour courtesy hours. So you're not going to have the student blasting their music at 2 p.m. on this floor. So that's what quiet study means. You can study in your room on any other floor as well, but it's just our expectation is that. So substance free, all of our buildings are actually substance free, but a substance free floor would mean students who have said that they want to live on this floor, they're not going to drink alcohol or partake in any non-prescribed substances on or off campus. So this would mean that even if you choose not to go to a party, that the people on your hall are also choosing to not go to a party, if that makes sense. And so we have a few types of these floors in our buildings. So if you preference it, it's not a guarantee, but we try our best to accommodate. And we won't put someone on one of these floors unless if they preference. And we get a lot of interest, so I've never had to put someone here that doesn't want to be. So for our contracts, it's going to be available in so when you get access to the MyRock portal on May 1st, you'll then have instructions and the link for our housing application. It's in a website called StarRes, and you'll receive information on how to log in. It's going to be your Active Directory information, so what you use to log into your student. Our application, it remains open, but our deadline is June 2nd. This is for all on-time consideration. So if you miss that deadline, still submit your application. It just might mean that some of your preferences we might not be able to accommodate. So if you have a preferred roommate, you need to make sure that both of you get your applications in by June 2nd. If you have a preference for an affinity floor, you'll want to make sure that you are getting that in on time. If we do have triple rooms, if you submit after June 3rd, it could mean that you end up in a triple, unless if we have students that have preference that they want that we're able to put them in ahead of that. So you just want to make sure that you're submitting on time. On time is on time. So anything that's submitted between May 1st and June 2nd is on time. It receives the same consideration. So just on time's on time. A big thing, you can't preference a building. So that's not something that we have in our application, and it's not something that you're able to do. So when you're looking for that, that's why that's not there. It's only floor types, and we have the floor types in all of our buildings. And I already talked about eco reps, but that's a great opportunity to get involved. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And this year we'll be sending out our room assignments on July 7th. So when you get that email, it will tell you where you're living, who your roommate is, and there will be information for how to sign up for move-in time slots in August. So I mentioned roommates a little bit before, but there's two methods that you can be assigned a roommate. And I would say they have equal success. So if you have a specific person in mind, so this is either someone that you know from before college, or you've met them through one of the admissions events, or through one of the social media pages, you can request each other through StarRez. We have a roommate questionnaire that every student has to fill out. There's tools within it that you'll see of how to look up students. So once both people have filled out the application, they'll be able to search for each other, and they'll be able to request each other and match. We will only put requested roommates together if both people have indicated that that's what they want. So this way, I can't say if I'm a student, oh, I want Michael Panato to be my roommate, and Michael doesn't want to live with me. I can't force that to happen. Michael has to agree to be my roommate. And so that you'll see on the application the tool where it would put you into a roommate group, and then I would assign. The one thing that I will say for the questionnaire, if you are going random, so random would be I'm the one that does the first year assignments, so I'm the one that's going to assign you. Any score that's 50% or higher is actually a really good score. I know it doesn't sound like it would be, but it takes off points for like if one person preferences an affinity floor and the other one doesn't, you lose some points. So anything over 50% is actually really good. 70% is more equivalent to like 100%. So I know that sounds a little bit weird. So with that though, you can go either way with this. If you want to use the roommate matching tool to try to find someone on your own, you absolutely can, because you're going to be able to see people's profiles of how they answered questions, what your percent is. You can message each other through StarRez to initiate that conversation. The one thing that I would say is communication is the thing that makes a successful roommate pair. Not necessarily these questions, because people will answer the questions however they're going to answer. It might be true for them right now, but not true to their lifestyle in August or September, because life changes. If they're filling it out with their family members, they might not be answering fully accurately, or if their family members are filling it out for them, it might not be super accurate. So I wouldn't put a lot of weight into that percentage. I would put the weight into the conversation with the student to figure out like what are our lifestyles actually like. And that's before you get here, after you get here, while you're here, the whole time you're here. Communication is very important. And so I mentioned a little bit about this before, but it really comes down to communication, your ability to compromise, your ability to share, being assertive if something is happening that you don't like. My RAs, when I had them, they used to make fun of me because I would call it carefrontation rather than confrontation. Because if you're confronting something, it's because you care. So if you say something early, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It doesn't have to be aggressive. It could just be, hey, do you mind not doing that? And then the person will say, oh, okay, I didn't know that bothered you. And it could be as simple as that. Where if you don't do that, those little things build up, and suddenly now you're at conflict. So definitely keeping an open mind, open to new ideas. This will help you a lot in college and post-college if you have roommates. So we have our staff that is also able to help, like if conflicts are happening, where you can talk to your RA about having a roommate mediation, or even tips on how to solve something before it reaches the need for a mediation. And so one of the things that we do to try to help prevent issues when you get here within the first 3 days, your RA will sit down with you and your roommate or roommates, and you'll fill out a roommate agreement. So this is a good opportunity to talk about like the rules and expectations for your room. And so this could be about guests, how late you plan to stay up and get up, studying in the room, not studying in the room, all of that kind of stuff. So you're having the awkward conversations right in the beginning, and it's facilitated. So if you're, nervous about having that kind of conversation, you're not necessarily the one bringing it up. The RA is, and they're helping guide you through it. So it makes it not awkward. But then you'll receive a copy of the agreement. You'll have it throughout the year. You can always go back and amend it. But like, say if the conflicts start happening, you can point back to the agreement and say, well, when we got here, this is what we agreed upon. And so sometimes that will help alleviate a conflict from getting worse. So I mentioned this a little bit, but we have roommate mediations if needed. We try to solve conflicts first before doing room changes, just because sometimes if it comes down to like communication, if we can figure that out first, that will help prevent problems for you like in the future. So the mediation can be with the RA, it could be with our graduate resident directors. Our area coordinators are also trained to help roommates like work through their conflicts. And the Center for Student Conflict Management is also a tool that sometimes we'll use, like if a disagreement is particularly like deeper. Room changes, the room change request form is available. We try to make changes when we can. The room change request form isn't guaranteed, but we do try our best with that. You can always swap roommates. That's always a very easy room change. But if it's I want a single in Genesee, maybe you'll get one at some point, but you might not ever get one. But if you're open to a single in any of the first year areas, then your probability of getting that room change is higher. Or if you're open to just like different buildings, but if you say, I can only live in Gilbert Hall, just probability, that reduces your chance of getting a double or single or triple in Gilbert. So keeping in a wide set of preferences will help you with a room change. So that's whether there's a conflict or not a conflict. It could just be, I want a different change of scenery. Please move me from Lovejoy to Susan B. Anthony. I want to be closer to the dining hall. I want to be closer to this, or that's where all of my friends are. You could do a room change request for any reason. So for our rooms, we have standard furniture. Our bed is an extra long twin mattress. And our rooms come with a dresser, a desk chair, and a wardrobe. I sometimes call it armoire. So if I start calling it that, they're the same. For students that are over 6'5", you can request an extra long mattress. So that's potential. It's not a guarantee, but you'll be able to put that in your housing application. So that way I can get it to our facilities team and they can try to put that bed. It is first come, first serve. So make sure that you're turning your application in by June 2nd. And for fire safety purposes, you have to use the mattress that we provide you. You cannot bring in your own mattress. The only way you'd be able to do that is if it's an approved medical accommodation, which you would submit that through Disability Resources. And for all of our furniture, you can't remove the furniture from the room. And we'll talk a bit about stuff that you can bring. So for lamps, nothing that's upward facing. We do have a little chart on our website that you're welcome to look at to see what an upward facing lamp is. But if you picture like the lamp that there's not a shade on top of it, the light just flows out of the top, no halogen. You are allowed to bring personal items, so posters, pictures, like decor. That's fine. Check our fire safety policies for everything. There are rules about tapestries. You're not allowed to have curtains, but you can bring TVs, gaming systems, computers, various types of storage, and we'll send some more of the specific information this summer as well. But all of this is on our website if you look at the incoming student page of what's allowed and then especially what's prohibited. So you won't want to bring hot plates, definitely no candles, extension cords are a no, things like that. So other amenities that we have, every room has a port for an Ethernet cable if that's what you're still using, but we have wireless Wi-Fi all throughout our residence halls and campus. There is a port for plugging in your TV for cable if you still like to watch cable and not streaming services. We have lounges on every floor. All of our buildings have kitchens except for Genesee. It has a kitchenette on the entry floor that you would come in. But the other buildings have floor kitchens. We have study rooms, laundry rooms are in every building. And what's really nice, the fee for laundry is already included in your bill. So you don't have to bring quarters and pay for your laundry. You're already paying for it. Our buildings have a service desk for like if you get locked out with special lockout hours. Some buildings have music practice rooms, and Susan B. Anthony has Hillside Market. So that's a little convenience store, and they also have Danforth, the dining hall. So after your first year, we have something called the housing lottery. So this is different than what you'll be doing now. This is when, basically a year from now, this is the process that our current students are going through. Our current students, their housing application is actually due at 11:59 p.m. tonight. And then on Monday, April 14th, they'll be participating in something called the housing lottery. So every student is assigned a housing lottery number, and we do it based off of seniority. Seniors will pick their housing first, then juniors, and then our rising sophomores. So when we say rising, it means our current first year students, rising sophomore, they're going to be a sophomore next year. So if you submit your housing application and sign your housing contract, your housing is guaranteed. Sophomores, so the rising sophomores, their housing is required. So if they don't submit their housing contract, we reach out to them and we submit it on their behalf. But for our rising juniors and our rising seniors, housing is not required. So if they don't submit a contract, then they don't participate in the housing lottery. If they submit a contract, they participate in the lottery, and the housing's guaranteed at that point because they filled out a contract. So we offer all sorts of different types of housing in our upper class areas. Feel free to look at our website and see the different options. But if you like a double room in a corridor, like your first year building, or a single room in a corridor, that's a potential option for your upper class years. Suites, so if you want to live in a suite with your friends, or apartments with your friends, fraternity houses, fraternity floors, sorority floors, and special interest housing communities. So we have music interest floor, computer interest floor, and an anime interest floor. Drama house in the fraternity quad. It's not a fraternity, it's just the name of the quad. And the Douglas Leadership House is a living learning community. So if you want to join any of those groups, you are welcome to, but you can select rooms in the lottery by yourself or with a group of friends. So there's a lot of different opportunities. And that's it for our presentation, but are there any questions?
Yes, I was able to answer a bunch, Julian, but there's definitely some questions for you. One is, when do students start working in StarRez, May 1st or June 2nd?
Oh, May 1st. That's when the application will open. If you were to log in before that, you're not going to be able to access it. So May 1st is when you want to log in, and that's when the application will work for you. And you'll see it, and you'll have instructions for it.
Nice.
Good question.
Another question for you is, does the lottery give you numbers by class? That is a senior lottery, junior lottery, sophomore lottery, etc. Since seniors pick first, then juniors, then sophomores.
Oh, good question. So what it ends up being, when I'm doing the lottery numbers, I'll take the senior class first, and I will randomize it within the senior class. and then I'll take the junior class and randomize it within theirs. And so we'll use last year, for example. Last year, all of the seniors picked on Monday or Tuesday morning. Then on Tuesday, after all the senior times were done, the junior times started. So the juniors, they picked between part of Tuesday morning until early Wednesday afternoon. And then the rising sophomores, their times started Wednesday afternoon, and they picked after that. And so it's once your lottery time hits, that's when you're allowed to start picking, but you can pick anytime after that. The only bad part if you wait is that your options start dwindling. So you want to pick at your housing lottery time. But yeah, so it does go in that class order for times that are released. But it's randomized within the class year. And so we don't do anything. I know some schools will do it based off of like how many credits you have, or if you're part of any groups. We don't do it that way. So it is randomized within. But I was talking about fraternity floors before and special interest housing. So those groups we do assign prior to the housing lottery. Those students don't participate, and that's just because we don't want students that are not part of a fraternity living in a fraternity's house unless if they have specified. So for those particular groups, we get their membership and their rosters prior, and we assign them.
Thanks. And then let's see. Another question was, I answered this one, but we thought you might have an answer too. What's the best kept secret about living on campus for new students to know?
Oh, best kept. I'm trying to think of what is actually a secret. I think that what I didn't know when I was 18 versus what I know now, and like looking back, you develop so many different life skills through when you have to live amongst people in close quarters. You learn a lot of conflict resolution, even before conflict happens, learning how to interact with people who have different views than you, expanding your own worldview. I don't think that these are secrets, but I think that's one of the benefits is just how much you learn outside of the classroom. And then I would say that for me, like I became an RA like my sophomore year. I learned a lot of skills through that that I've found now, like in my like later in my 20s and like in my 30s. I'm in my 30s now. Sometimes when something is happening in my family with like the adults, I'm the adult. I'm the one that knows how to navigate a process or how to get something done efficiently. And that's not something that I default thinking this is a life skill that everybody has, but it's not. And so I think that maybe the one of the best kept secrets is just how much you'll learn and how much you'll develop, where it sounds like that isn't, but I think that ends up being a little bit of a surprise for people like afterwards of like looking back of how much they've grown, even the end of May of your first year, looking back and comparing how much you've grown since August. It's a very rewarding. But yeah, and then I would say all of my best friends that I still have, they're friends that became my best friends my sophomore year of college. So I don't know. I think some of those relationships.
Yeah. And maybe very similar answer, because my answer to this question would be what you just said is if the dorms could talk, what would they say about the students living there?
Oh, Michael, do you have an answer for that
Um,
first?
I
Or
guess what I would say is I think they'd be surprised. They would say how much the students grow from start to end, particularly in the
yeah,
first year. Is I feel like the students who come in August of their first year, and the students who go into upper class housing at the end of their first year are just totally different, and uh, mature so much. I think the nice thing about the residence halls is sometimes I feel like you do almost as much of the learning in the residence halls as you do in the classroom, and just that sort of social growth and that independence. And that's probably what I see the most.
yeah. And I would say resiliency too, because of everything that Michael said. But with all of the things that happen like throughout life. Like there's going to be the good things that happen while you're in college. There's going to be the tough moments, but how much you learn like from each of those things and getting through it and ending up like on the other side in a much better place. But yeah, I would say the resilience is a big one.
There's a question if you want to read it about registering in the dorm early or just before the DDL have no difference.
So I might be reading this question incorrectly. So say hypothetically, if you submit your application on May 1st, you can go back into your application anytime between May 1st and June 2nd and update your roommate information. So I would say you don't have to wait to submit. After June 2nd, you're not going to be able to update any of that information just because that's when I'm going to start assigning students. So I would say go ahead, submit May 1st, because then your roommate questionnaire is going to be there for other students to see. They won't see it until they've started their application. So don't wait. You can go back in, update the roommate stuff. And especially like if you are meeting people at different things, you can then search for them and you can match. So anytime between May 1st and June 2nd, you'll have access to the roommate tool. After June 2nd, that tool goes away.
And then I don't know the answer to this off the top of my head, but maybe you do about what the max size is for a fridge.
I can look it up. I know it's on our incoming student page. My general like eyeball is smaller than counter height, so that it could slip underneath a counter. So not a full size fridge, not one that like stands up tall, like not yeah, not the height of like a standard adult. Maybe the height of like a kindergartner. Counter height would be the thing. But we're not out there measuring the cubic feet. Um, but yeah, I can try to find that. So while I look, are there other questions?
The last question which just came in, which so it is: do all first year students live together, or are they mixed with other class years? And the answer would be they do get their halls to themselves. So there are on the first year hall, the only upper class students living there would be the student staff members, so the RAs, DeLines, and fellows who are helping them out.
Yes. And our plan for this upcoming year, so Lovejoy Hall, some years it's been entirely first year students. Other years it has been first year students on one floor, upper class on another floor. Our plan this year is that first year students will, that Lovejoy will only be first year students, but depending on enrollment numbers, there is a chance that there could be a floor of upperclassmen. But our first year students would be grouped together. So yeah, I would say traditionally it is only like the first year students.
Yep. The next one for you maybe is do transfers get mixed in with freshmen?
Depending, they can. And so say if there's a transfer student who is young, that maybe they graduated high school a year early, or their birthday just like puts them closer to the first year students, because our transfer housing isn't guaranteed. Sometimes we will offer um, transfers that are within like the a year of the traditional age for the first year students. Sometimes we'll offer them a spot in one of the first year buildings. And so I would say the answer is yes, maybe. It depends on the year, it depends on our availability. If someone did a semester somewhere else or part of a semester somewhere else, then the answer is probably yes. But yeah, so I would say the potential is there.
And then another question for you is choosing single gender dorms a preference that is guaranteed?
Not guaranteed, but I definitely, when looking at it, I will, for assigning purposes, I assign the single gender floors first because usually that preference is stronger for students. So I want to make sure that everybody that's on the single gender floor is someone that indicated that that's what they wanted. And then I'll do the all gender floors afterwards. But one thing that I will say too of again, depending on like the class year and enrollment, sometimes like an all gender floor, I'm going to make this up. If there's 15 bedrooms, it might end up being 9 of the bedrooms have students that identify female, and the remainder are students that identify male. I try to like keep those balanced, but sometimes we might have more students that identify female than students that identify male. So sometimes it's not an even split. But yeah, I do try my best. And I would say to increase the chances of getting a single gender floor, make sure that you submit your housing application before June 2nd. And then if you have a preferred roommate, make sure that they also put that they want a single gender floor, because that could impact if they put that they only want an all gender floor, that might make it where you don't end up on the single gender floor.
And the next question is, what's the most unexpected benefit of living on campus? And if I was going to answer that from my thoughts, you could chime in, Julian, if you have any other ones.
Absolutely.
I would say I think I see the students that are most successful are the ones who are living on campus because there's a larger campus community you can connect to. So that means you're right there. If you want to study late at night, you're not coming in from off campus. Campus groups, the same thing. It's a lot easier to kind of connect with campus groups when it's just a short walk from your room to there. So I think it just sort of connects you and integrates you with the larger campus community and what's going on campus really well.
I would say same. So the school so where I grew up, it was a small town, 5,000 people. I went to school with the same kids from nursery school through high school graduation. And while they were lovely, I didn't have anything in common with them by the time that we were graduating. We were all going different directions. So for me, I would say one of the most exciting things when I got to college was meeting new people, and that I didn't remember like anything about them from like nursery school or second grade or anything like that. But just the things that we had in common, um, I found more depth than I did with my high school friends. I know that's not the case for everybody, but just for like where I grew up, that was one of the most enriching things for me. And then, like I said before, all of my best friends I met sophomore year. I still have my freshman year friends, but sophomore year, that's when I was within my major, within my different roles on campus from getting involved, that I then again found more in common, deeper connections. And at that point, I had grown myself like as well. So I would say that was probably the one of the major benefits for me.
Here's an interesting question for you. How many students go random for roommates versus how many select their roommates using StarRez?
This is a good question. StarRez was new last year, and I'm going to be fully transparent. Before StarRez, we were using pencil and paper. So I never had the time to be able to calculate that kind of statistic versus I haven't pulled that data from last year, but that is one of the things that I'm curious of on a rainy day. I can start pulling that information and seeing. Anecdotally, I would, I'm going to say maybe, I think half and half is a little too generous. I think we have a little bit more random than we do roommate pairs, where maybe it's 60% random, 40% roommate pair. But what I will, and that probably changes based off the year, but what I will echo, the success is the talking to each other, because not just the school, other schools that I've worked at, um, I have had high school best friends or childhood best friends, and they get here and it's perfect. They already know how to communicate. It goes smooth, awesome. I've also had the opposite of, oh, now you're sharing a space and you find out like all those things that you had in common. That doesn't translate to living with each other well. I personally would not be able to live with any of my best friends. We are not living compatible, but we are compatible in so many other ways. So I think it varies by the person.
Another question for you. how are non-binary students accommodated regarding housing, mixed floors?
Yeah, absolutely. So non-binary, on our housing application, there are a few questions that other students can't see, and that the only people that can see it are me and Lindsay Carback. She is our undergraduate housing assignments coordinator. I'm doing the initial first year housing assignments, but for room changes, Lindsay's doing them. And so amongst those questions, there's two around identity. One is a question about sharing any information about your identity that you think that would be helpful for us with your housing. And so that's an optional question. And then the other question that is required, and again, other students can't see it, is listing identities that you are comfortable living with. And so students sometimes get very specific. Sometimes it's less. Like someone might say, I'm a female student. I would like to live with another female student. Or they might say, I am comfortable living with any female presenting identity. I have seen a lot of students get very specific saying, I am comfortable living with any female identity, non-binary, and like getting very specific of like listing identity specifically. I've seen someone say just no no identifying students. But I would say for non-binary, there's another question where, and this one students would be able to see, it's like your preference on floors if it has an all gender bathroom or not. But like for non-binary, you'll be able to indicate the genders that you're comfortable living with, and I will pair you with someone where it matches up. Where I wouldn't pair someone together where it doesn't seem like it would be a safe situation. And then for the floor preferences, so Genesee has something called pod bathrooms where they're individual bathrooms that has a shower, a toilet, and a sink, and the door locks. And then there's the other all gender bathroom that I was describing before that like we've converted over. So any student that indicates that they want to live in gender inclusive housing, I fill our gender inclusive spaces first. And so that doesn't mean that you're going to get Genesee Hall. We have the other floor types in our other buildings as well. But so say if a student indicates that they're non-binary and that they would like a gender inclusive bathroom, I am assigning those students to the floors that have the bathrooms. So that could be in Gilbert, it could be in Susan B. Anthony, it could be in Genesee. I'm assigning those first because I want to make sure that the students who want those bathrooms have access. And Genesee is just truly random. Of it wouldn't guarantee like a spot in there because we are able to accommodate. But gender inclusive, I tend to do those assignments. I'll assign medical accommodations first to make sure I'm meeting those. And then I'll look at all the gender inclusive. But I do wait until June 2nd. So that way, well, I guess June 3rd, because it's due June 2nd, before I start looking at that stuff. So that way, it's not this person submitted May 3rd. They have an advantage over someone that submitted May 30th. On time is on time. So that's also why you want to make sure that you're getting your application in on time, because any application that's received after June 2nd, I'm not looking at it until I've assigned everybody that submitted on time. And so that's where the preferences end up not, well, nothing's guaranteed, but it just reduces the chances. Also, I'm sorry, I'm looking for the refrigerator on my phone, and I'm having a little difficulty just because it presents different info navigation. So if I don't find it, I know that it's on our website underneath the items that you can bring. But were there any other questions?
There's one which I think is so the one asking, do you look at things in chronological order or filling out the form first come first served even before the deadline? Which the answer is as long as you get it in on time, it's all equal. So there's no advantage doing it 2 weeks before the deadline versus 2 hours before the deadline, as long as you get it in on time. And then there's a question is, are there kitchens on any floors? Um, so with the exception of Genesee, there are kitchens on all of the floors, all the halls in the quad and on all the floors in Susan B. Anthony. Um, and then in Genesee, there's one kitchen on the ground level floor of the building. And then let's see, we have a when do you become eligible to live in SIF?
Good question. So SIP is great. Technically, so spring semester, when our spring semester room change request form becomes available, it's usually early December. If SIF or anime or music, if any of the special interest groups have vacancies on their floor, you are eligible to room change to them for the spring semester. We just don't have it in your first semester because of the importance of all first year students like living together and transitioning together. By spring semester, while it's still important, we do have the exception that if there's availability on those floors, you would be transitioning into another community, so you would still be receiving support. So spring semester of your first year, that's when we can make the exception. Those groups, they do control their own housing. So you would have to work with their housing manager to help secure that spot. The housing manager would then speak with us and we would process it. But by all means, you can join these groups in your first semester as a non-floor member, and that increases your chance of getting to live on the floor. So definitely get involved early.
As an aside, that was someone was asking in the questions earlier about hidden secrets in residential life, and so one of mine was that
Yeah.
the special interest for some of them have SIF has a printing lab where anyone even not on SIF can sign up, and they go into the lab and they get free printing. MIF has a music room in one of the buildings, and I believe the anime interest floor has a anime library that people can go in and rent out anime and manga. So kind of, I always thought it was kind of cool that all these special interest groups sort of have, and they're all open to non-members too, these sort of special places in the residence halls. Question is, do a lot of people choose to go with random roommates?
I'd say half and half. A little bit more than half go random.
Are cuisine materials like culinary materials provided?
No, you would need to bring any cooking materials yourself. But what I will say, when you receive your roommate assignment, talk to your roommate about what to bring, like who is bringing what, so that way it's less for you to have to move out, but also it adds less clutter to your room. Of do you need more than one refrigerator? Do you need more than one area rug? Do you need more than one TV? And stuff like that, like pots and pans, and being realistic of like, what do you need? Do you need one like larger pot or do you need multiple sizes? And so you'll know what's true for yourself. But keeping in
And
mind, whatever you move in, you then have to move out at the end of the year. Um, yeah,
And
Michael.
two things I will add too, because I've seen this question come up a few times. Um, there are regular buses that the university runs that also goes to shopping areas. So, if you're, say, an international student or you're someone who didn't drive up in a car here, don't worry about not being able to get access to buy items. And then also for culinary materials, if you mean more food items to cook as opposed to pots and pans, there is also actually a supermarket store on campus to buy groceries from right in on the first floor of Subi.
So for the mini fridge, it's no more than 4.5 cubic feet. Um, I don't know if they sell micro fridges that are 4.6 or 4.7. If they do, that is fine. We're not measuring the cubic feet. It really truly is, does it fit under a counter? So 4.5 cubic feet
For their fridges. Yeah.
for the fridges. And there is something, it's an outside service. If you look at our website, if you want to rent a micro fridge, there's a company that we've partnered with where it would be you working with the company, you paying the company. They just drop it off and pick it up in the beginning of the year, the end of the year. It's a mini fridge with a microwave that's attached to it. So That's an optional service for students. You are welcome to bring your own, of course. And then for cooking equipment, just make sure to take a look at our website of what's allowed versus what's not. Crock pots are not allowed. Hot plates are not allowed. Toasters are not. Really, anything with an open coil, like a toaster oven, that isn't allowed. But pots and pans, that's okay. Microwaves, yes. Rice cookers are allowed. An Instapot would not be allowed. So our list is specific. So we don't, oh, I just saw that one. We
Yeah,
don't
you go for it.
offer storage over the summer for students, but on our website, we do have a list of companies that we're aware of. We don't endorse any one company over the other. These are some that have reached out to us. And so we've thrown their information on our website. So by all means, you can Google and see what other options there are, but there's a variety of companies out there, some that will come pick up the items and store it, and then in August they'll bring it back. So that would be similar as the micro fridge of working with that company directly, but no on-campus storage.
Yeah, I will often see people, students like to use sometimes the ones that they drop like the big boxes off and you load everything in and then they store it for you over the summer.
The cordless hot water kettle, I believe if it has an automatic shut off, but check our website just to make sure. I think that that one's okay.
Yeah, the key is the automatic shut off. If it has an automatic shut off and it's coilless, you're good.
Yeah.
So Julianne and Michael, thank you so much for providing so much great information about the residential life experience at the University of Rochester. We really appreciate the time. We really appreciate you all taking the time out to chat with us today. Thank you, Kirsten. Thank you, Pat, for all of your work behind the scenes. And again, thank you, Julianne and Michael, for your time and efforts. Everyone else, have a great rest of your day. And we look forward to seeing you in August.